around research, within the private sector, running businesses in that livestock sector, and so on. Looking forward to a very lively debate today. Without further ado, let me please invite our host, our physical host. So on behalf of Professor Anangiswe, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Dar es Salaam, let us put our hands together for Professor Rose Upor, who will welcome us to the campus. Karibu sana.
Honorable Guest of Honor, Honorable Abdallah Ulega, the Minister of Livestock and Fisheries and Member of Parliament, Professor Riziki Shemdoe, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, as well as Professor Daniel Mushi. Mr. Nathan Balete, the World Bank Country Director, all dignitaries are present here today and delegates, a very warm welcome to the University of Dar es Salaam. Good morning to you all. I've been asked to deliver welcome remarks on behalf of Professor William Anangiswe, who has traveled out of the country on official business. He warmly welcomes you all to the university, and if you get time in your busy schedule, after this meeting, please take time to visit our beautiful campus and enjoy the sights and sounds. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all here on his behalf and for leaving your busy schedules to be with us on this August morning. The University of Dar es Salaam is the premier institution in the country, and I think we can all agree on that. Historically, we once had the Faculty of Agriculture here at the University of Dar es Salaam, but in 1980, the then Faculty of Agriculture became a fully fledged university, and that's Sokoine University of Agriculture. But after we marked our 50th anniversary, it became abundantly clear that the university needs to go back to its old glory. And we now have a fully fledged Faculty of Agriculture that deals with a lot of food economy, agriculture economics, and nutrition as well. We are back to our glory. But that doesn't mean what I want to tell you this particular morning. What I want to tell you this particular morning is that we are deeply honored. Having the 21st TEU Summit here with us today proves that we, as a university, are also key players in the discussions that are about to take place. The takeaway that we're going to get out of this particular talk in the premises of the University of Dar es Salaam proves that we need to be more engaged. Yes, we deal with agriculture. Agriculture is wide. Livestock and all the like is within it. But what we want to say is that let this not be the last time you choose to be with us. So we'll keep on welcoming you here again, over and over again, and karibu sana. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. I hope you know that you have a professor from SUA in the room as well, but I think he also knows that this is probably the most prestigious tertiary institution in the country. Thank you for that warm welcome to the campus and for giving us a brief history as well. I would now like to invite the country director of the World Bank, Mr. Nathan Balete, to give us opening remarks and just premise the 21st edition of the Economic Update. Karibu sana, Nathan, to the stage.
Good morning. Habari za asubuhi. Honorable Chief Guest Abdallah Ulega, Minister for Livestock and Fisheries, our special host, Professor Rozopour, the principal of the College of Humanities here at the University of Dar es Salaam, Professor Ruziki, the Permanent Secretary, Professor Daniel Luis, the Deputy Permanent Secretary, senior government officials, esteemed panelists, members of the Diplomatic Corps, students and members of this faculty of this esteemed university, ladies and gentlemen. It's truly an honor and a pleasure for me to be here with my colleagues from the World Bank on this special event. I was just joking with the minister that I see too much World Bank written on this behind me, so we should please replace that with Ministry of Livestock and Fisheries, so out of respect for the work that we do with the Honorable Minister and his team. As you know, the TEU is our flagship report that we produce biannually to talk about the recent economic developments and identifying emerging opportunities and potential risks to the economy. Each edition of the update includes a special topic that's of strategic importance to policymakers and broad stakeholders. The special topic of this particular edition is harnessing the opportunity for climate-smart and competitive livestock sector in Tanzania. Before elaborating on this special topic, Honorable Minister, please allow me to highlight recent economic developments since the publication of our last economic update. Since the beginning of this year, we have seen a gradual stabilization of global growth, although still lower than the pre-pandemic levels. On balance, global financial conditions have eased despite the unchanged U.S. policy rates, as policy rates have come down in Europe. However, escalating geopolitical tensions, weaker than expected growth in China, and natural disasters associated with climate are expected to present downward risks for growth globally. Against this backdrop, Tanzania's economy has remained very resilient. Real GDP growth has accelerated from 4.6% in 2022 to an estimated 5.1% in 2023. Leading indicators also suggest a buoyant services sector and relatively steady expansion in the industrial sector during quarter one of 2024. Inflation has continued to decline, both in mainland and in Zanzibar. For mainland, headline inflation averaged 3% during the first 4 months of 2024, a level that we have not seen since 2019, while in Zanzibar, it has declined from 7.9% in April 2023 to 4.5% in April 2024. Moderating global commodity prices, fiscal subsidies on food, and an increase in the domestic policy rate have driven easing of inflation. A positive dynamic has also been observed in public finances as well. Notably, the government has achieved 28% increase in tax revenues during the first 8 months of fiscal year 23 and 24, which helped improve the country's fiscal health. The fiscal deficit also narrowed from 4.1% of GDP during the first 8 months of 22-23 to 3.2% during the same time period of 23-24, which is well aligned with the medium-term fiscal consolidation target. Let me pause now and recognize the Tanzanian authorities on this recent progress in strengthening tax revenue. These positive fiscal developments have also helped Tanzania to maintain debt sustainability, which unfortunately is not the same as we see in much of the region. The most recent IMF and World Bank debt sustainability analysis published this month determined that Tanzania continues to face only a moderate risk of external and public debt distress, which has notably created some space to absorb possible external shocks. I would also like to highlight that Tanzania's current account deficit has narrowed, which is another positive development for the economy. This has been supported by gold, traditional merchandise goods, a vibrant tourism sector, and a reduced import bill. Tanzania's trade balance and current account deficit have also improved. The current account deficit declined from 4.7% of GDP during the first quarter of 2023 to 2.9% during the first quarter of 24. Still, imbalances in supply and demand in the foreign exchange market persist. The Tanzania shilling depreciated by more than 10% from April last year to April this year, while the import coverage of gross official reserves remained at 4.4 months over the same period. Going forward, the continued flexibility of the exchange rate will be crucial to restoring equilibrium in the foreign exchange market and making sure there are no distortions because of parallel markets. Over the medium term, Tanzania's GDP growth is expected to reach its estimated long-run potential of 6% per year, while inflation is expected to remain low. Improvement in the business environment through expected progress and reform will also attract more investment, including foreign, and boost the economy. This fiscal deficit is expected to remain at 3% of GDP, supported by continued growth, revenue growth, and prudent government expenditures. Despite this positive outlook, the economy remains vulnerable to several risks. These include delayed or partial implementation of reforms, the damaging effects of climate change on the agriculture and tourism sector, weakening external demand for Tanzania's export, and negative implications on increasing trade fragmentation in the global economy. Unfortunately, in addition to maintaining high growth rates, there are risks to Tanzania's ability to translate growth into poverty reduction. This risk highlights the importance of paying more attention to the policies that will make Tanzania's growth more inclusive. Which brings me to the special topic of this 21st edition of the Tanzania Economic Update, harnessing the opportunity for climate-smart and competitive livestock sector in Tanzania. We included our analysis on an essential subsector of agriculture, particularly livestock, because of its importance for Tanzania's inclusive growth agenda. In this special topic, we will discuss policy options to improve livestock productivity, to leverage the sector's untapped potential for growth and poverty reduction. I would like to highlight that Tanzania's livestock sector is expansive and very important. Tanzania is home to 1.4% of the global and 11% of Africa's cattle population. With around 36.6 million cattle, Tanzania's cattle population is the second largest, let me say after my own country, Ethiopia. The livestock sector continues to contribute 7.4% of Tanzania's GDP and an impressive 26% of its agriculture GDP. The sector supports about a third of Tanzania's households, and we believe that there are untapped opportunities for improving food and nutrition security, creating jobs, inclusive and sustainable economic growth. Despite this potential, the livestock sector receives limited investment, which hinders its growth and sustainability. It faces significant challenges due to an unproductive herd, high disease burden, and limited access to critical inputs and finance. The livestock sector is also fragmented and informal and suffers from misalignment among stakeholders. Tanzania's livestock sector is also very vulnerable to climate change. Increasing erratic weather patterns, pests, disease threaten livestock and fodder resources. Droughts and recent floods have increased the incidence of animal disease and limited feed availability, reducing productivity and negatively impacting farmers' incomes. Globally, and in Tanzania, livestock production is a significant emitter of greenhouse gases, particularly methane. In Tanzania, dairy greenhouse gas emissions are dominated by enteric methane, which accounts for 88% of livestock emissions, with the remainder coming from manure management. If no action is taken, these emissions are projected to increase by 50% by 2030. It is therefore crucial to intensify Tanzania's methane mitigation efforts to achieve a triple win: acceleration of economic growth, increased environmental protection, and improved livelihoods for the poor. To address the challenges facing Tanzania's livestock sector, a set of policy recommendations are put forward. These include boosting sustainable productivity, enhancing trade and value additioning, strengthening climate mitigation and adaptation, ensuring food safety, strengthening coordinated disease surveillance and vaccination programs, fostering antimicrobial stewardship through One Health mechanisms, and building sector and institutional capacity. By prioritizing these efforts, as the ministry is doing, Tanzania will be able to unlock the livestock sector's potential for inclusive growth, generating jobs for women and youth, ensuring food and nutrition security, and better protecting the environment. We believe that the implementation of the livestock sector transformation plan and the agriculture sector development program is crucial for transforming the livestock sector into a robust pillar of the economy that is capable of driving sustainable development and improving the livelihoods of millions of Tanzanians. And I reaffirm the World Bank's full commitment to support the ministry and the government as they advance on this important topic. I would like to conclude by congratulating once again the government and all the stakeholders in the positive economic developments. I would also sincerely like to thank the University of Dar es Salaam for hosting us today. We look forward to the discussion that we hope you will find useful in advancing Tanzania's development ambitions. With these remarks, it's my honor and privilege to introduce my brother, Mheshimiwa Waziri, to give the official opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Nathan Balete. And the minister is coming up to the podium to share his official remarks at the 21st edition of the Tanzania Economic Update. Karibu sana, Mheshimiwa.
Country Director, Mr. Nathan Belete, Permanent Secretary, Professor Riziki Shemdoe, Deputy Permanent Secretary, Professor Daniel Mushi, representative of the Vice Chancellor of University of Dar es Salaam, Professor Rose, member of the diplomatic corps who are present here, senior World Bank officials, private sector, non-government organizations, academia, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. Please allow me to start my speech in Swahili. Alafu nitaendelea. Nataka nitoe shukrani kwa kupata heshima hii kubwa sana, hasa mbele ya wanafunzi wenzangu wa Chuo Kikuu cha Dar es Salaam. Ninasema wanafunzi wenzangu kwa sababu mimi ni alumni wa Chuo Kikuu cha Dar es Salaam. Katika maisha yangu sikuwahi kufikiria kuwa leo nitaweza kupata heshima hii kubwa sana ya kusimama hapa chuoni na kuweza kuzungumza namna hivi ninaweza kuzungumza. Mungu ni mkubwa sana. Lakini naomba tu niseme kabla ya kuendelea na speech ambayo imeandaliwa rasmi, niwapongezeni sana mkuu wa chuo na vile vile na staff wote, na kwa namna ya kipekee niwapongeze sana wanafunzi na vijana wenzangu, ninyi mliojitokeza kuja kusikiliza jambo hili kubwa na zuri. Hongereni sana. Mimi nimepita hapa, maisha ya hapa ninayafahamu vizuri. Katika maisha yangu ya miaka mitatu niliyokuwa nikisoma hapa Faculty of Science, ambapo nimesoma microbiology, fisheries kwa maana aquatic sciences, wildlife, chemistries. Nimepita viunga vyote vya hapa chuo kikuu cha Dar es Salaam, na nimewahi kuishi hapa katika mwaka wangu wa kwanza pale Hall 6, na baadaye nikahamia Mabibo Hostel, sisi ndio tulioanzisha, na pia niliwahi kuishi Kijitonyama Hostel. Katika maisha yangu ya hayo ya miaka mitatu sikuwahi kupata fursa ya kuja kushiriki katika mkutano mkubwa kama huu ambao leo ninyi mmepata fursa ya kushiriki. Hongereni sana. Hii maana yake ni nini? Maana yake moja, mmepata heshima kubwa. Mbili, zingatieni kila kile ambacho kitakuwa kikiendelea hapa, kuanzia namna watu wanavyofanya presentations, namna watu wanavyosimama kwenye podium, namna ya nidhamu ya mkutano, lakini kubwa zaidi na content yenyewe. Ikiwezekana muielewe na muondoke nayo. Hamwezi kujua ya kesho na kesho kutwa. Mimi ni mtu wa biology, lakini leo nina heshima, ninaitwa mbunge, ninaitwa waziri wa mifugo na uvuvi. So prepare your future. Ninawaangalia, ninawaona ni vijana na matumaini makubwa mbele. Kwa hivyo mimi binafsi yangu nimefurahi sana kupata fursa hii na heshima kubwa sana ya kusimama mbele zenu hapa leo, na nikijivunia kwamba mimi ni alumni wa chuo kikuu cha Dar es Salaam, ambapo wakati huo hatukuwa na ukumbi huu, na ndio maana nakipongeza sana chuo kikuu cha Dar es Salaam kwa kazi hii kubwa na nzuri. Wakati huo tulikuwa tunafanya mikutano namna hii pale Nkuruma, na kama sio Nkuruma basi labda pale tunaitwa AVU Science Theater, au kule upande wa engineering, au katika madarasa haya madogo madogo A1, A2, A21, maeneo yale ya karibu na pale katika Vimbwete kwenye ule mti pembeni, sijui kama bado upo ule mti. Kwa hivyo ukiwa unapita katika eneo la administration block, so you can see now university is coming up. Panapendeza sana, walimu wanafanya kazi nzuri, wanafanya maamuzi mazuri. Hongereni na endeleeni kufanya hivi mnavyofanya kwa maendeleo ya nchi yetu na watu wake, na kwa maendeleo ya elimu ya taifa letu. Asanteni sana. So it is my pleasure and honor to have this opportunity to deliver a keynote speech in this important event for launching the 21st Tanzania Economic Update Report, which provides special attention to livestock sector in Tanzania. Today's event provides a platform to discuss innovative solutions, share valuable insights and strategic partnerships that will drive the transformation of the livestock sector. Allow me to extend my sincere appreciation to the World Bank team for organizing this remarkable event. Our long-standing collaboration and partnership has been very instrumental in transforming our economy. I also wish to welcome those who are coming from outside Tanzania. We feel much honored to host you. I am indebted to each and every one of you for gracing us with your time and presence here today. I am aware that the theme of the 21st Tanzania Economic Update report is harnessing the opportunity for a climate-smart and competitive livestock sector in Tanzania. This theme signifies a pivotal moment in our ongoing efforts to elevate the livestock sector, acknowledging its critical role in our nation's economic growth and sustainability. It underscores our commitment to addressing the pressing challenges of climate change while enhancing the efficiency and productivity of livestock farming. The report comes at an opportune time as it will inform the current focus of our government to transform livestock sector to become more productive, resilient, and sustainable so as to contribute significantly to the industrial economy, GDP, and the well-being of actors in the livestock sector, value chain, and creating employment opportunities for women and youth while conserving our environment. Under the visionary leadership of Her Excellency, Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, the President of the United Republic of Tanzania, we have witnessed strong political will and commitments in transforming livestock sector. This has been demonstrated by an increase in budget allocation for the livestock sector from 32.1 billion in the fiscal year 2021-2022 to 112 billion Tanzania shillings in the year 2023-2024. So you can see the increase of about 4 times. Further, the country has embarked on the development of mega supportive infrastructures in a quest to facilitate easier transportation of livestock and livestock products to domestic and international markets. In addition, under her regime, the country has undertaken major legal and regulatory reforms aimed at creating enabling business environment, fostering trade of livestock and livestock products, and ensure that private sector operates in a friendly and predictable business environment. The increase of budget allocation has enabled livestock sector to revamp its production and marketing infrastructures, retooling of machineries and farm implements in livestock breeding and pasture producing farms, increasing coverage of animal health services and strengthening extension services. In 3 years since Her Excellency Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan came into power, 3,241 extension workers received the refresher training on livestock production technologies and have been supplied with 1,553 motorcycles for easy delivery of extension services to our livestock farmers in the villages. Further, the ministry has capacitated youths and women engaged in livestock, agribusiness value chain through a Building Better Tomorrow program, that is BBT. The program is designed to create agribusiness mindset and motivation to youth and women for them to invest in livestock, enabling them to access opportunities and resources such as training, technology, and financing, which are crucial for modern and sustainable farming practices. However, more investment is needed to roll out the BBT program to every region in the country. It is evident that it will take many years to drive the required transformation in the livestock sector under reliance on public funding alone. Private sector investment is therefore inevitable. Let me take this opportunity to recognize stakeholders who have joined government efforts in transforming the livestock sector, including the Tanzania Commercial Cattle Society for improving breed and commercializing cattle production. Thank you, Mr. Nawid, and your team. You are doing a very great job. Companies that have pioneered commercial poultry production in the country, and here we have Madam Elizabeth Swai, the owner of the big company AKM Glitters. We thank you very much, and other players in the poultry sector together with you. Abattoirs that have driven increase in meat export from 1,774.3 tons in the year 2021-2022 to 14,700.2 tons in the year 2022-2023. You can see here we increased the number of export of beef outside our country. And this is done by the private sector. And we congratulate those abattoirs like Elia Food in Arusha and the Tan Choice in Kibaha Pwani. We are doing well, and nowadays you can see the flags of our country in some of the supermarkets outside of our country. Congratulations to all of us. I would also like to commend the efforts undertaken by daily stakeholders. A history has been rewritten in Tanzania. We have re-embarked on the production of powdered milk. We also have other stakeholders who are engaged in commercial pasture and animal feeds, and those that have embarked on vaccines and veterinary drugs production. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am informed that after the launching of the report today, we will have discussions on the report findings. It is my sincere hope that the recommendations emerging from the discussions will be converted to actionable strategies that will assist us to move forward the agenda of livestock transformation in our country. In Tanzania, there is a Swahili proverb which says, kidole kimoja hakivunji chawa, which means one finger cannot crush a lice. Thus, let us join hands to transform the livestock sector to be more competitive and climate smart. Let me assure you unwavering commitment of the government to strengthen the existing ties and partnership with your organizations. We are ready to work with you all in addressing the challenges identified so that we successfully fulfill the vision of our livestock sector. It is my sincere hope that we shall have more fruitful engagements in our bilateral and our multilateral endeavors. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as we are about to embark on the implementation of the livestock sector priorities for the year 2024-2025, I call upon all stakeholders to join hands with the government on national vaccination campaign, the newly formulated livestock guest house program for mitigating conflicts between livestock keepers and other land users, upscaling commercial pasture production, and extending the presidential legacy, the BBT program, countrywide. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude my remarks, let me once again thank you all for participating in this launching event in a very special way. I would like to express my gratitude to my brother Nathan and his team, the World Bank team, for the fruitful collaboration with our country and for giving us opportunity to participate in this high-level event that provides a platform to discuss innovative solutions, share valuable insights, and forge the strategic partnership that will drive the transformation of the livestock sector And indeed, we thank you very much again for choosing this meeting to be held in the university, and especially University of Dar es Salaam. I know some of my colleagues here, Professor Shemdoe, Professor Mushi, Professor Mdegela, Mr. Mark Soso. When I say especially here at the University of Dar es Salaam, they will not be very happy, as they are the alumni of University of Sokoine, the University of Agriculture. But you said it all, Professor Rose, that the sewer is a good baby of the University of Dar es Salaam. So no problem with that. And I am 100% sure that you are happy to be here. It's your home. With these few remarks, let me end here as I look forward to your collaboration in mobilizing requisite resources for implementing report findings to make our livestock sector climate smart and competitive. I thank you very much, and God bless you all. Thank you.
A warm round of applause. Honourable Minister, I'll ask you to stay on the stage, and I'm
Okay. So we are from tax now, we move to, again, I mean, with the improvement now in the tax revenue, we also see significant improvement on the fiscal health, especially the fiscal deficit. The fiscal deficit and the primary deficit have also significantly reduced. You see it has reduced for the first 8 months of this fiscal year compared to last fiscal year. It has moved from around 4% to 3+%, which I think is also a very good progress. Now let's go to the bucket of challenges, which I say it's a small bucket. It's not as many as the progress, but there are still challenges. So the first one is on the official reserves and the forex challenges, which also Nathan mentioned. Of course, what we are saying on the chart, we are trying to show how the gross official reserves have evolved over time. And what we can see from 2021 all the way to 2024, the columns, the green columns are the level of reserves, which have continued to come down. So when you compare like September 2021 or November 2021 to 2024, we see it has gone down. But again, we also put in there, in terms of the amount of imports, the amounts of imports the reserves can save us. And this is the red line. You see the red line is also declining. But again, as Nathan mentioned, it's declining, but we still have enough to cover the 4 months of imports, which I think is the target of the government. So it's still okay, but the trend is going down. That's important to note. It's a challenge. We need to go back to the levels where we could cover 6 months or so, right? But again, we are also showing with the blue line the depreciation of the shilling, the nominal effective exchange rate, which is showing going up, which means depreciation. Yes, the shilling has depreciated against US dollars, but still we have challenges on the foreign exchange market. There is an imbalance. So the question there is whether this depreciation is enough, whether we need more than that in order to balance the demand and supply in the forex market. And then the other challenge, the second challenge which I wanted to put on the table is again on the FDI. And this on the FDI, basically, we are putting this chart here, but you will see more in the report. We want to also highlight the challenges which are still facing the business environment as well. So you can see we are moving down from almost 6% of GDP in 2010 or so, 2012, of GDP in terms of FDI coming to the country to around 2%. And this reflects part of the problems we are identifying in the report, including probably, I mean, we are mentioning challenges we still face in the business environment. We have seen policies, we have seen laws changed including the Tanzania in the new investment act, the PPP law, and other many laws, the blueprint for regulatory reform, which has been implemented, but still, we still have challenges. And you will see in the report, we have touching a number of them, including the regulatory framework, tax administration, access to finance, and all that, which are again contributing to challenges which are still remain in the business environment, which needs to be tackled. And then the third one, which I think it's also a major one, and Nathan highlighted it, is the poverty part. We have seen growth, we have seen everything moving, but poverty kind of remains stagnant. You see, from 2011, when they did the survey, the HBS, it was 28.2% of Tanzanians were poor. 0. How many? $0.6, 60 cents of dollars per day. We were 28. And today, 2024, they are estimating 26.2, which means a reduction of only 2% in more than 10 years, which I think, I don't know. The growth is not responding, the poverty is not responding to growth, which is happening. And I think this is where we now say we need some more policies in terms of making the growth more inclusive. And actually, the issues we are highlighting we need to tackle, apart from, of course, we had the issue of COVID in 2020, which increased the number of poor. But then we have other issues like the high population growth. We have issues like the limited coverage of the social protection, which we still need to address, make sure it covers more people, especially you saw during the COVID pandemic, a lot of people got into poverty, but since they were not covered by the social protection policy or something like that, they were not able to cope. Some of them even went back to agriculture from services, and you have some kind of backward structural transformation, which is not good. But again, the low productivity in agriculture as well as in the livestock sector. And the livestock sector is the one we will discuss. So we have low productivity in those sectors, in agriculture and livestock. And we'll dwell more on the livestock in the second part of the discussion. Now let's go to outlook. So 3 challenges I highlighted. Now let me highlight 2 aspects of the outlook. So the first one is on the growth. What we see when you look at we put together all these issues, assumptions, etc., we still see Tanzania GDP growth continue to grow and probably reaching the long run, whatever target of potential of 6% over the medium term. That's possible. But again, I want to note that we have downgraded a little bit the numbers we have. When we did the economic update in March this year, we had slightly higher numbers. But this time around, we have slightly lower numbers. But we will still reach 6, but not the 6 we had in March. And basically, the downgrade here is because of what we are seeing. There is a slow and unexpected implementation of structural reforms, right, to facilitate private sector investment. But there is persistent barriers, as I mentioned. You have those issues to do with the regulatory burden. You have the issues to do with the tax administration, access to finance, etc., which are hindering private sector development. They still exist. But there is insufficient reforms to rebalance the imbalances in the foreign exchange market. You saw there's some shortages in foreign exchange. I don't know whether it's shortages or it's the imbalance in the foreign exchange market, which needs to be corrected as well. So we need more policies there to correct that. And then on the fiscal side, what we are seeing there on the fiscal side is, we are seeing that they are going to continue increasing domestic revenue mobilization because the private sector and the business environment is continuing to improve, which will help to narrow the fiscal deficit. And we are pointing to a fiscal deficit of around 3% over the medium term, which will be in line with the target of having fiscal and debt sustainability. But of recent now, as Nathan also mentioned, that the recent DSA, debt sustainability analysis, still may put Tanzania on the moderate risk of debt distress. And of course, we are expecting the debt to tip down in terms of debt to GDP, because we are saying, the fiscal deficit continue to decline, and of course the revenues continue to increase as well. So you will expect the debt to GDP ratio to go down over the medium term. And then the other one on the outlook is on the external accounts as well, which I think we are also projecting also improvement over the medium term in the current account deficit, and basically driven by the improvement in business environment, etc., increase the FDI, etc., which will help to increase export, but of course the reforms which will also increase the export competitiveness are also important to drive that. As a result, then, with the increased FDI, we expect the current account deficit, which is narrowing, will be more financed by the foreign direct investment, which will also be gradually increasing. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. And we will take our second presentation now. I think there are a lot of themes that have come up in the first one that we will discuss in the panel in a moment. But I'd now like to welcome Mr. Ernest Ruzindaza, Senior Agricultural Economist from the World Bank, for the second presentation. If we could have the second presentation up, and the clicker should be working. There we go. Karibu.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to take you through the special chapter. We have an outline for this chapter. We'll present it into 6 points. First, we will present the recent trends and development of the Tanzania livestock. Second, we'll take you through the climate change and drivers for vulnerability. Third, we'll discuss methane, tackling methane, barriers for competitiveness. We'll discuss emerging opportunities and strengths, and then we'll attempt to give you some, policy recommendations for consideration. As it has been said, livestock population in Tanzania is among the largest in the world and in Africa, and it is expanding. Livestock is actually held in the whole country, with priority in central, coast, and lake zone of the country. The systems that we have here in the country, we have agro-pastoral systems, which represent 80%. We have pastoral systems representing 14%. And we have commercial ranches representing 6%. Again, as it has been said, cattle population is among the biggest in the world and in Africa. It's not just cattle population, because other livestock species, Ethiopia actually rank among the 10 first countries in Africa for goats, for sheep, for poultry. So the numbers of livestock are actually very big. And we have seen in the last, in 10 years, from 2010 to 2022, we have seen a tremendous increase of numbers of animals, where, for example, for cows, for cattle, the numbers have more than doubled, 100.9%. And the average of increase in that period for overall animals is at 3%, which is really a big increase. So, as again it has been said, livestock GDP in Tanzania is 7.4%, and it contributes to agriculture GDP at 26.1%. When we compare with regional countries with livestock, especially Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda, we see that actually Tanzania can do better in terms of GDP, because you can see that the GDP of livestock in Ethiopia, it's 19%, and per capita animals are almost the same. The GDP in Kenya is 12%, while in Tanzania we still have 7%. It's good, but it can be increased. Again, when you compare GDP participation into agriculture, Ethiopia and Kenya come first compared to Tanzania. With Ethiopia 45%, Kenya 40%, while Tanzania will have 26%. Livestock in Tanzania provides, it's a source of employment. From the data that has been collected from the National Bureau of Statistics, we see that livestock employs 33%. In nominal figures, 4.6 million of households are employed in livestock, which is a big number. And again, livestock sales contribute to 13% of household rural income, with the poorest household generating 20% of their income. Of course, it contributes to food security, to gender equality, to employment for youth and women. So during the period of 2010 and 2021, we have seen livestock growing faster compared to the crop sector. The livestock subsector compared to crop subsector, we've seen a tremendous growth for livestock, 4.9%, while the crop sector was growing at 2.4%, which led to an average growth of the sector in that period of 3%. Again, discussing again on production of livestock, we see that in the period of 2010-2021, when we take production, Tanzania livestock outperformed Ethiopia, Kenya, and Uganda. We have seen, a production increase. But again, when we visit what has been the source of that increase, we see that the source of the increase is mostly driven by population expansion. As we've said, in that period, the number of animals have increased at an average of 83%. So, and this provides also a room to say that there is a big gap to cover when it comes to yields. As you can see on the chart, the yields for Tanzania, taking an example for cattle meat, the yields for Tanzania cattle meat are lower compared to regional average, to African average, and to the world average. The same again on milk, which means that there is a room to really invest and increase the yield and improve productivity. When it comes to consumption, we have seen that in the period of 2010-2021, all the index of consumption of livestock products are upward trending, an increase of consumption of livestock products, which is mostly led by population growth, of course, rising income for Tanzanians, and urbanization mostly. And if you go product by product, you can see that products like eggs more than doubled in that period. Cattle meat more than doubled, and we see an increase of milk consumption and poultry consumption, which increase at interesting rate. Again, when we project consumption by 2031, we see that the production would be outperformed by consumption. So Tanzania consumption is expected to grow rapidly and will surpass key livestock products. And we see that for meat and milk, the projection that we have by 2031, milk production gap is evaluated at 5.4 million of liters, while meat is evaluated at 2.05 million of metric ton of meat. Again, this shows that there is a need for improvement to make sure that we can catch up during that period. So under stagnant productivity growth, we also see that there are imports of livestock products coming in, and that are increasing sharply. And we see that whole chicken meat, and milk, and milk powder, and even milk, increasing in the period of 2010 and 2022. Discussing on export, again, we note some good efforts that are being done currently, because Tanzania is reaching the markets, outside markets. But if you see the potential and compare with other countries in the period we've evaluated, 2010 and 2019, we just compared Tanzania and Ethiopia, and we see that Ethiopia is actually exporting more livestock products compared to Ethiopia, again with almost same per capita animals. 15 to 150, I think the gap is big, and this is something that can cause to revisit, different incentives in place, different laws in place that can help fast track export in livestock. So, again, as it has been discussed, livestock sector is vulnerable to climate change. We have assessed this and show by region different impacts that we see in livestock production system, going to heat stress, to reduced feed, to death of animals, to destruction of livestock infrastructure, and in some cases overgrazing and conflicts, which calls for adaptation mechanisms to climate. Again, this is one side. Another side is that, as it has been said, another side is that livestock is a big emitter of greenhouse gases. And if you see our big numbers of animals, and we really see that livestock contribute a lot in greenhouse gases. If you take, for example, farm gate emissions in Tanzania, we see for the overall agriculture sector emissions, livestock contribution from enteric methane and enteric fermentation, livestock contribute almost 90% of agriculture emissions, which actually calls for action when it comes to mitigating, especially methane. As Nathan said, if there is no action, if there is no remedial action, we expect emissions to increase by 2050. But as we have discussed, the ministry has launched the roadmap for sustainable investment, which shows different packages of mitigation, especially how methane can be mitigated. And it has been shown that livestock can actually increase productivity and production of protein while reducing methane by 13% in 2030 if the right investments are done in climate-smart agriculture. So what are the barriers for competitiveness? Indeed, there is a good progress when it comes to reprioritizing livestock in terms of availing the budget. But what we have seen in our public expenditure review, we've seen that despite that the livestock contributes to 7.4% and 26% to agricultural GDP, livestock receives 0.03% of the budget during the period of 2019-2022, which is, I mean, a modest budget if you have to reach these priorities. Again, this leads to limited technology access because the livestock research is also underfunded. This leads again to capacity, limited capacity of different stakeholders, including farmers and cooperatives, and we are still experiencing a dispersed market, fragmented and characterized by informal, as it has been said, informal trading practices, and then low market information system. Access to credit limits investments, and this is again limited investment in the sector, and many livestock producers lack access to input, and specifically quality breed, vaccines, feed. Probably the ministry will have come back to that, but what we've seen is that, for example, when it comes to forage seeds, we've seen that only the country can produce 1% of the needs in forage seeds. And you can see that if this is fixed, how productivity can increase, because this is about feeding animals. And of course, we noted limited infrastructure, logistic infrastructure, collection, transportation, and market infrastructure. And land tenure is also a big issue. And that leads to conflicts and sometimes overgrazing and land degradation. And of course, as it has been discussed by my colleague, regulations and many other policies that need to be really fixed so that investments happen smoothly. We've discussed too much challenges. We've discussed too much potential for growth, but we know that there are emerging strengths in this sector. This sector is a sector, as we've said, which has not been invested in. So if we see the strategic location of this country, if we see the stock that this country has, it shows a huge opportunity to expand the market, being local, being regional and international. It is really tremendous, and this is a strength that Tanzania has to build on when it comes to invest in this sector. So the demand. We've said that population is growing, urbanization, people are demanding livestock products And this is an opportunity for the sector to also invest in value addition and create jobs. You know better than me on Tanzania rich diversity of indigenous livestock. We have, Tanzania has indigenous livestock proper to the country, which offers opportunity to meet diverse requirement, different consumers. And this is also a program that needs really to be considered. Much as we want to do breeding, but we also need to see how we can keep our best breeds in the country so that we keep the Tanzanian breeds. And also we respond to the market. The emerging digital and technology landscape is increasing, and this offers, easy access to information and innovation. For example, we've discussed extension, but for the analysis that we've conducted, agriculture sector, farmers who accessed agriculture extension in 2022 were only 7%, which is a low figure. And we think that embarking in digital extension services with the tools that are already available in the ministry, we can expand access and therefore improve productivity for farmers. Again, we've seen that the Ministry of Livestock, is the signals that we've seen is that the Ministry of Livestock has ability to implement the budget, which is very good for any investment that can be done to increase actually the budget for development in this sector. So again, we have attempted to conclude by 4 buckets of policy recommendations. And we think that if these policy recommendations are actually implemented, it can contribute to harnessing climate smart livestock and lead to a competitive sector. Again, we've said that it's important to boost sustainable productivity, investing in different areas, veterinary services, strengthening and expanding breeds, improving range runs, not only for conflict, but also to provide feeds and also making our environment sustainable. Increase and sustain public funding for research, which is very important. And the second bucket is mostly enhancing trade and value addition, which really talks to how we can, promote private sector investment, as have been said by Honorable Minister, and invest in infrastructure, but also put in place a conducive and enabling environment to make sure that all stakeholders can actually work smoothly in the sector, and as well as putting in place a regulatory and safety, food safety framework. So One Health is in place, which is very good, but One Health mechanism needs to be funded as far as livestock sector is concerned, so that livestock sector also play its own role. The third bucket is on strengthening climate change and adaptation. We've discussed it. We believe that designing a good strategy for, effective strategy for climate resilience is very important. And mitigating methane is central, not only for the globe, because it's a commitment, it's part of the Paris commitment, but also for sustainable environment for Tanzania. And this calls for capacity building for the Tanzania monitoring, reporting, and verification entity, which is SUA now, to make sure that they can monitor, they can report, they can verify, and allow investors in livestock to access carbon financing. We also propose scaling up of the renewable energy, and among others, see how we can actually manage manure to make sure that it doesn't contribute to greenhouse gases. The last one, which is an enabler, is indeed improving sector governance and institutional capacity, which cut across the three other buckets that we have proposed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ernest Ruzindaza, for that very insightful presentation that I think will be extremely helpful as we transition to our panel discussion. Can I get everyone to stand up, please? We've been sitting for too long. We just need a quick stretch. Could you just stretch this way and the other way and turn around and just say hello to somebody behind you that you've not spoken to yet, but not for too long. We will be moving to the center of the stage in just a minute. Okay. Right, if we could take our seats, I'm going to invite my esteemed panelists onto the stage. So, a lot of the themes have already been raised during the deep dive presentations and during the opening remarks stage. But we have our esteemed panelists who are now going to share their practical experiences, either from a research perspective, running a non-governmental organization, from academia, but very, very importantly also from the private sector. So I'm going to start by inviting, on behalf of the Ministry of Livestock and Fisheries, the Deputy Permanent Secretary, Professor Daniel Elias Mushi, to please come up to the stage. He is one of our panelists today. Yes, you can clap for him. I would also like to invite Mr. Amos Amore, Regional Representative from the International Livestock Research Institute, ILRI. Yes, please. Karibu. I would like to invite to the stage Ms. Elizabeth Swai. She's the CEO of AKM Glitters. If you could come and join me, come up these stairs here. I would like to invite Mark Soso, country representative from Haifa International. And last but, we also have Naweed Mula, CEO of Mbogo Farms. And Professor Ndegela from Sokoine University of Agriculture to also join us on the stage now to complete our panel. Come and take your seat, and your microphones are on your seats. We can just check that all is working, and once Professor has arrived, I think we'll be ready to kick off our discussions. To members of the audience, there will be Q&A, so if you have comments or ideally questions that will be brief and to the point, we will open up to the plenary momentarily. So, we're here to talk about how we can be more competitive as a sector for livestock for Tanzania. We've seen some of the statistics there, particularly when we compare to Nathan's country, Ethiopia. We're lagging a little bit, but there is a lot of opportunity and room for improvement, so that's a positive thing. My esteemed panelists are going to share experience around, I guess, some of the policy recommendations that have also been put forth by the World Bank. But I'm going to start with the DPS, Professor Mushi first, to talk us through what kinds of policies do you see being put in place from your perspective on behalf of the ministry that you believe could lead to a more competitive livestock sector and also are climate smart? So what can we see on the horizon on behalf of the ministry?
Thank you, Miranda. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, the question is very pertinent, I would say. And for me to be able to articulate my argument properly, I would like to start by giving a bit of background. What do we mean when we talk about climate smart? What kind of practices actually contribute to having a climate smart livestock production? Yes, I would like to mention about 4 practices that should be taken into consideration for a livestock production to be climate smart. One is to reduce emission from livestock production. And how do we do that? And what are the avenues for emission from livestock production? One is from rearing of cattle. We have heard from the presentation that has happened, that have happened today, or have been made today, that livestock production contribute to methane emission. And how does that happen? We know that we have methane emission from enteric fermentation, and there are ways to reduce that from livestock production. One is to improve efficiencies and diets, so that per unit of livestock product produced, there is less emission of greenhouse gases. We know already that by improving the quality of diet, the emission produced per unit of livestock product produced is lower. And what can we do there is by improving the quality of animals, quality of feed that animals have access to. We know from research that fibrous feed produce more methane than concentrate feeds. So we need to improve the quality of feed that we give our animals access to. Two is to improve the breeds that we do keep. We know from research that the improved breeds emit less methane per unit of livestock product produced, because they grow fast, they reach production stage early, and within their lifetime they would have produced less methane per unit of livestock product that they would have produced. So embarking on improved breeds will save us so much, so that we have less methane produced per unit of livestock product produced. The other one is to control livestock diseases. We know for sure that sick animals will take time, much longer time to produce. And this report says it very well, that one mature cattle produces 80 kilogram of methane per year. So if a sick animal will have taken 7 years instead of 3 years to start producing, you can imagine how many kilograms of methane will have been produced. And then, of course, proper manure management will also add value and reduce amount of methane produced per kilo of livestock product produced. Then the second one is to reduce land use change in connection to livestock production. How do we do that? Is to improve carrying capacity of land that animals have access to, so as to spare or to free other land for carbon sequestration, or to serve as a carbon sink. How do we do that? By improving carrying capacity of the land that we graze our animals on. And then the third one is by reducing emission from production of animal feeds, transportation of the same, and processing of the same. Here we are very good in terms of the production system that we do use. Our animals are mainly finished off grazing, and that means we use less fuel for animal feed production, transportation, and processing. And lastly is by reducing range degradation from livestock production by balancing the number of animals with the carrying capacity. And in that way we actually reduce, or we maintain, the carbon sink that we so much need to serve as a carbon sink. So these are the avenues where we can reduce amount of methane produced per kilogram of livestock product produced. Now, the policies that that I have to jump in definitely have statement in that connection. What should we do to reduce the amount of methane produced from livestock? Yes, and if I should narrow down on the specific strategies that the ministry has actually embarked on to reduce the amount of methane produced from livestock production, there are quite a number. One, of course, we have clear strategies to improve rangeland. And our livestock policy, of course, states clearly that we have to designate specific land areas for livestock production. That is one way of avoiding land degradation, so that animals or livestock are confined within the designated areas. And up to date, we have actually earmarked about 3.4 million hectares specifically for cattle. But the question remains, are they fully utilized for cattle only, or they are other activities that are taking place there. But at least we have demarcated them for that particular purpose. The other thing is to improve access to veterinary services. We have done a lot in that line at the ministry level. We have done a lot of investment in cattle dips. We know we need to control diseases, and the government has so far, or the ministry, of course, has so far invested in about 760 cattle dips for the same reason, to control livestock diseases. As I said earlier on, sick animals will take much longer time to start producing. And by that, it will actually contribute a lot of emission per lifetime. And then we have actually invested in provision of acaricide needed for controlling tick-borne diseases. Every year, we spend about 2.8 billion at the ministry to give subsidy on acaricide for controlling tick-borne diseases at the country level. And next year, in our next financial year, we will invest about 29 billion shillings on vaccination campaign. All these efforts are meant to reduce and control and prevent livestock diseases so that our animals become more efficient in producing livestock product, so as to reduce the amount of carbon, amount of methane produced per unit of livestock product. And then, of course, we are also doing something in connection with the breed improvement. As I said earlier on, improved breeds are more efficient. They produce less emission per unit of livestock product they produce. So we have plans and strategies to improve the breeds kept by our local livestock keepers. We invest a lot in mass insemination campaign annually, so as to improve the animals that our livestock keepers do keep. We also have a insemination campaign for the same reason, to gradually change and improve the genetic makeup of the animals that our livestock actually keep. And this year and the year before, we also embarked on a program, a flagship program known as Building a Better Tomorrow, as our minister said earlier on. The idea behind it is to have, a critical mass of commercial cattle producers. Because one of the reasons as to why we have all this emission is the mindset that our local farmers have. We need champions to change their mindset, to move from, keeping animals for their numbers into, having market-oriented commercial livestock production. So this is the idea behind this program that we are talking about, Building a Better Tomorrow. And we have actually set aside almost 28 billion to run this program. But of course, we need more investment in that line, because we need our idea, the guideline from our minister, is to have BBT station on every region in this country. So far, we have got such station in only 5 regions. And this year, we also have 8 regions. And 8 out of 26, we still have a long way to go. So we need more investment in that line. And finally, just to cut my talk short, we are also investing in mobilizing resources for climate-smart intervention. This year, we have managed to attract funding that is going to, that's going to be directed into climate-smart dairy transformation. We have about 174 billion that is going to be injected in that in such endeavor, so as to reduce the amount of methane produced per unit of milk produced, and make sure that we ensure food security while producing in a competitive way. Let me end there. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Mushi. There's a lot to unpick there, but I think will be picked up by other panelists as well. But I'm going to start off on the research thread. And of course, when we say climate smart, it would be important for us to all be on the same page. I'm going to come to you now, Amos. Maybe just to unpick, what does it mean when we say climate smart with regards to the livestock sector? And specifically, what innovations or trends are you seeing in your line of work that you think could be applicable to the Tanzanian context, that could be picked up and implemented here? What are the latest innovative trends? Over to you.
Okay, thanks a lot. First of all, congratulations to the team that produced this report. It has very concisely captured the key issues, gaps, and opportunities for improving the livestock sector in Tanzania. I particularly like the graphs in the sections that illustrate the yield gaps and benchmarks of what could be done. They're immense opportunities. Now, coming to your question about innovation trends and how could this be applied to Tanzania. First of all, let's appreciate that research, innovation, and development should ideally feed into each other to achieve the goals of development efficiently. Now, Professor Mushi here has very nicely elaborated the details of what really needs to be done. So the question then is, how is research responding, or how should research respond? What is happening there in the research innovation world within Tanzania, but also regionally and globally? Now, I see two key innovation trends that respond to the challenge that we have related to promoting climate smart development. One is, over the last 5 or more years, 5, 6, or 7 years, there has been increasing emphasis on climate smart technologies. For example, the consortium of organizations that I work for, known as the CGIAR, about 5 years ago developed a research and innovation strategy that is basically about transforming food, land, and water systems in a climate crisis. So the climate, considerations are overarching and important considerations across board. Specifically in relation to livestock food systems. That look at the whole range of production to consumption and the interaction between the people involved along the value chain with land, water, and the environment around them. Now, that has been very nicely captured here by Professor Mushi. So the question then is, what is research trying to do to respond to these challenges or contribute to the overall goal of development? Now, the way we frame the way we respond to this is basically to look at the primary causes of the declining natural resource base, the primary causes of limited availability of quality feeds, and Prof has nicely elaborated some of those, ensuring that those feeds are climate smart. For example, precarious species that we know can outlast, the dry seasons. And into the next season. Also, in relation to improving, so generally it's about improving productivity, and we know feeds is a major component of improving livestock productivity. The second is genetics, but it's not just any genetics, it's appropriate genetics. Now, 100 years ago, we didn't have cows producing 10,000 liters per year. Yeah, with the maximum production, the Holstein Friesian of 100 years ago only used to produce, 5 or so, liters of milk per day. That's maybe about 2,000 liters per year. But now we have, through genetic selection and improvement. Now, we have tried in many parts of the developing country to try to import some of these breeds directly and have them used in our own environment. But we find that you bring them into humid environments, and they don't really, fit and are not able to produce the amount of milk that they're able to produce in those other environments where they were developed, either because of challenges of accessing, quality feeds or, the smallholder settings in which we have here. But also generally making them appropriate, having appropriate livestock for our own environment. So working together with institutions here in Tanzania, TALIRI, the National Artificial Insemination, there are already some efforts going to have more appropriate breeds. Now, on the second question about how these are being applied to Tanzania, let me mention the recent challenge by the Minister for Livestock to my institute as well as the Tanzania Livestock Research Institute to identify, he gave us 6 impact areas to work on. And what I like about that is that increasingly it fits to the overall aim or trend of having researchers working with the end in mind. So being more impact-oriented, as opposed to what used to happen a lot in the past where a researcher basically saw his main objective as producing a publication that is kept in a library somewhere or in a journal, and then there's always a gap there between the research output and realizing the outcomes related to development. So increasingly, those impact areas that have been summarized here very nicely by Ernest, the policy recommendations in this report are very much the same challenges, impact areas that the minister outlined, and we developed, innovations that then could be, picked up, scaled with research working behind that to help make the development process more efficient.
Maybe just very briefly, if I could link in, is there any success story you could give, maybe another market that you could cite, just for the benefit of the audience, where you've seen the benefit of research that has now been applied to the livestock sector? Are there other countries you could cite, sub-Saharan?
Maybe I could cite 2 examples in Tanzania and maybe one more regionally. The first example, and it's been highlighted here, work we've been doing with the National Land Use Commission on participatory rangeland management to ensure security, tenure security rights for pastoralists. So that we know all of you know, there's been quite a lot of talk about land use conflicts between pastoralists and farmers. So the question then has been, how do you ensure that they coexist? And what we have done with various partners and stakeholders is to develop tools and processes for negotiating tenure security. For example, in Kiteto district, about 160,000 hectares were secured, and the Ministry of Livestock is interested in having this scaled in other parts. The second one in Tanzania is the work we have been doing with colleague Elizabeth, a gender-responsive, private sector-led, youth and women-focused intervention, where the private sector is, mainly her farm, but also engaging youth and women in particular. Our interest was here is how do you get women to overcome some of the constraints they face in engaging in agribusiness, and using, addressing the gender norms, creating a media buzz, and mentioning some of those changes. Now, these are sort of attracted quite a lot of attention within Tanzania and beyond. The third one, regionally, you asked me, so let me also mention that, is we're very proud of the work that has been done on index-based livestock insurance that ensures that, and we know as droughts, you see droughts have been, particularly in the Horn of Africa, becoming graver and graver over the years. So they trigger payments, insurance payments to livestock keepers, and that has is now allowing close to 20,000 livestock keepers to be able to receive payments immediately. Satellite images trigger a change in vegetation cover, the color of vegetation, so that you mitigate the impacts of the droughts that are increasingly occurring.
Thank you very much, Amos, for those examples. You've segued me nicely to Elizabeth. I was coming to her next. Elizabeth, tell us a little bit about running your business, your farm, and particularly as a woman entrepreneur as well. What are some of the challenges and, more importantly, the opportunities, do you think, for being a woman in the livestock sector and being an entrepreneur overall?
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank the ministry, led by the minister. We have established a very good relationship with the ministry. So most of the challenges, we do have a lot of challenges in implementation of our businesses. But the ministry is very supportive, and to start with, last year in August, we signed a compact agreement supported by SAGOT with the ministry to look at the challenges of the sector and I'm the chair of the executive committee of that compact agreement.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Why I started with that, it's because from the implementation of our businesses, we do have a lot of challenges, from policy challenges to investment challenges, implementation challenges, women and youth inclusive challenges. So I would like to quickly speak of the challenges so that we can see how those challenges translate into what I'm going to say about my business. In the poultry sector, we do have a lot of informalities in terms of investment. There are very few companies that are registered, certified by the ministry. This has a lot of impact in disease management, that's one, but also have a lot of impact on investment by the companies that have invested into infrastructure and businesses against the informal sector. Informal sector is very strong, and that affects the markets, it affects the prices, it affects a lot profitability of the formal sector. That means the formal sector is supposed to abide to tax law. We are facing a lot of compliance authorities, costs, while informal sectors are not facing that. And that's a very big challenge because it adds into cost and affects the prices of our products. So that's a very critical challenge. But through the compact agreement, and through the executive committee of the compact agreement, we came up with a framework to address these issues. And we are going through the same challenges to address and change the way forward of how the sector should be developed. From the compact agreement, we have discussed, I think we just learned about, from the presentation, animal health. One of the major issues that the compact is going to oversee is implementation of policies that allows companies to comply both informal sector and formal sector. And this will make informal sector translate into formal sector. That means even the GDP will increase through that formalization of those businesses. We also have collaboration. The major collaboration that we are looking at is working with association. Unfortunately, we have multiple associations. In poultry sector, we have about 14 associations that are not effective, and they need a lot of support in terms of association strengthening and developing of coordination offices to be able to assist the ministry to monitor the implementation of various activities, but also to be able to do self-audit of its members. And this will be very critical in disease management and, of course, productivity of our businesses. We also, the compact will also look at the gap in policy. We have identified already about 2 policies, 3 policies. One policy is a breeding policy, which is in draft, waiting to be approved by the Parliament. And the other policy is traceability policy for poultry sector. At the moment, we are in process of putting up a national poultry strategy write-up for poultry because it's not there. And it's very critical that we do have that national poultry strategy write-up that will give a way forward and lead the development of poultry sector. We also have a need for, I think it should be somehow contingency kind of policy which would look at issues like, for example, COVID. When we had COVID, and poultry sector is one of the sectors that has been affected very terribly, because most of the imports of parent stock is from abroad, and borders were closed, and it had impacted a lot of hatcheries. For Dar es Salaam only, we have 6 hatcheries closed, and we also have about 25 informal and formal feed mills closed due to COVID. And since COVID, there hasn't been any study that would looked at the impact of COVID effect. This has very high impact in terms of financing and investments. So while I'm talking about that, sorry, I need to go now to the women and youth involvement. I think research, as my colleague is saying, is very critical. Now we are having a lot of diseases that are coming up in poultry sector. We need to invest in research and studies to identify what are these diseases and what is causing these diseases and what should be used to manage these diseases. Now I'll talk about my company. My company is Ikem Peters Company Limited. We are dealing with poultry integrated business, and we do production of broiler beds, and we also have animal feed mill, but we also do development programs, partnering with different partners and collaborating with the ministry and other donors. We had collaborated with IURI on Women in Business. This is we are trying to come up with employment opportunities for women who completed livestock colleges, and we bring them into poultry production as breeders and also vendors. This helps, first of all, distribution of farm input supplies, vaccination, also some seeds like 4 weeks chicks to the smallholder farmers, also capacity building. We are using these kinds of innovations to be able to reach the farmers where they are, and also to address issues that have been presented by the report today. We also have another model that we work with women all over Tanzania, and we have turned these women into mother units or agents, whereas these women are breeding chickens to 4 weeks. They get all the vaccines, and they are being treated prior to distributed to the smallholder farmers. And every mother unit is supposed to work from 100 to 500 smallholder farmers around their area. This helps the ministry to address issues of extension services, also farm input supplies to smallholder farmers at the small level. We have initiated another model which we did a pilot study last year, starting with 50 youth in Tanga region. We have created an incubation center. We are using incubation center as a center for showcasing innovation, also value addition, but also looking at issues of integration to address climate issues. For example, we are now this year expanding from 50 youth to 300 youth in Tanga region, whereas these youth will be integrating poultry and fisheries. This means when we do integrate poultry and fisheries, we address issues of waste management. We've also looked at adding up black soldier flies production, which is has the market already, or we as a company will be buying the products for feed production. So it's very integrated, and we're looking at solutions that when you do production of black soldier flies, that means you manage the waste. That means you reduce the gases.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, and congratulations for everything that you're doing to lead in the sector and to pull youth up into the sector as well. We will come back to you in a bit. Okay, Naweed, something that was mentioned there by Elizabeth, and I think it was called the regulatory burden by Emmanuel in his presentation earlier, which can sometimes inhibit FDI into the country in the sector. But we want to be regionally and globally competitive, right? And we've been challenged that the GDP should be increased in the livestock sector, but we can't talk about that without talking about competitiveness. So maybe you can just orient us a little bit from the perspective of your business. Tell us about Mbogo Farms, but also what are some of the key factors that will make the livestock sector more competitive, and what might be holding us back?
Thank you, Miranda. Thank you all for joining us today. Honorable Minister. Minister, thank you for gracing us with your presence, and the World Bank for organizing a very important event. And I was very, very excited to be invited to this event because it's for the first time I'm seeing the headline and the theme aligning very well with what I'm very passionate about. So, going straight into your question, Miranda, what are the key things, from my perspective, from a private sector perspective, that are hindering our ability to compete, whether it be at a regional level or a much larger international level? And I'd like to mention them in three main components that personally I've identified. And we have engaged with quite a number of government officials on the same issues. The first thing I'm going to highlight is our husbandry SOPs, so husbandry standard operating procedures. The reason I'm mentioning that first is because it ties into any other solution that we think we may have. So I've heard everyone talking about genetics, I've heard everyone talking about animal nutrition, and yes, they're all very, very important, but if our people still don't know how to look after their cattle, if they don't know how to breed them properly, avoid inbreeding, dip them properly, paddock them properly. For example, in breeding, you have different breeding goals, so how do you separate your herds, how do you use different bulls, etc., etc. Those are all in your husbandry techniques. How do you look after a calf when it's born to make sure it grows out to the animal that it's supposed to be. So I'll highlight that as the first challenge, and the methods and strategies that have been mentioned by all that have spoken before me do highlight the right strategies in terms of training, in terms of the right investment in exposing the general public into better ways of husbanding their cattle. Forgive me, I'm only going to be speaking about cattle, and we have my sister Elizabeth here to handle the poultry side. My approach is very pragmatic, so I hope that will be a breath of fresh air to a lot of the institutions and policymakers that do have to adhere to certain expectations of a global agenda, but I like to be very pragmatic from a private sector perspective in terms of what the challenges are. So after mentioning the first one, I'll go straight into animal health and nutrition. So once we address the first one, immediately we have to come into the second one, because animal health are things that are non-negotiable when you now want to enter an export market. As a private sector investor trying to access a more global market for my cattle, things like traceability of our animals become an issue. Do we dip our cattle? How do we control encroachment of animals that are from a less secure area into your own areas? And a lot of those things you'll find are regulated by means beyond us in Tanzania. Much bigger international regulations regulate what meat is allowed to enter what market. And developed countries have worked very hard for decades, I would say centuries, to eradicate diseases from their countries. So the moment there's that little bit of hesitancy from an African country wanting to bring in meat into their country, when they've got options like Australia, when they've got options like Brazil, Argentina, South Africa, the risk factor and the investment that was made to eradicate the diseases becomes too great for them to import meat from us. It's as simple as that. So our animal health protocols are a big stumbling block in allowing us to be competitive on an export market. You'll find a lot of our export go to the Middle East, where their way of consumption is different, but also they don't have cattle in the Middle East, predominantly desert. You find that disease issues don't become much of a problem when you're entering those markets. And like everybody else mentioned before, genetics in our breeding practices is equally as important. So when you're looking at the international market, again, for exports or even our local markets that are operating at a high standard, so your high-level restaurants or your high-level abattoirs, your meat quality is highly relevant to your genetics, in the sense that can you get your animal to eat a certain size at the right age? I see my colleague Luke in attendance, and this is something that we've bounced off and tried to strategize, and the bottleneck always is genetics. I simply cannot get an animal ready for Luke's market. So Luke is from Boston, that's who I'm addressing in the audience, and the challenge has been getting the right frame size within the right time frame. for him to be able to sell that meat now to Hayat, Melia, and your big restaurants in Serengeti, Zanzibar, et cetera, et cetera. So if we can supply the right genetics to first substitute for imports, personally, I'm not even looking at exports yet. So I still think we've got a long road to first improve our ability to first cater to the local high-end market that's currently predominantly importing before we look at the export market. I hope I've covered your question.
You have, and you've actually touched on quality improvement as well that I was going to ask you later. Maybe you could dive a little bit deeper. Anything else that can be done to improve the sector and the output?
I mean, the quality issue falls in quite closer to the same competitive matter.
Okay, thank you. Mark, let me come to you. I want to talk about farmers' capacity. And there's a lot that's been mentioned there, but when we do, our farmers have the capacity, and also when we look at extension services, are they adequate and are they able to supply the kinds of services needed by Tanzanian farmers for us to improve the livestock sector?
It is still good morning all. Yeah, thank you so much for the very good question, which is very pertinent from the topic which was been presented this morning. But I just want to start from what we do as Heifer International within the country. We have been in this beautiful country for over 50 years now, and we've been mobilizing farmers into the group, building their capacity and so forth. But maybe what is very important to this session is the model that we have been using, and we are still using it with some modification, but also the work that we have done so far. So as an NGO, our role is to complement the government efforts, the government plans and so forth. So we are here within this country in response to the call of the government of the United Republic of Tanzania. So we normally don't come with something new. We come with something that we find within the country, within the community. So let me start dwelling on the model. So while we've been using several models, development models, our key model, our cornerstone model is a value-based, holistic value-based community development model, VBHCD. And we have been using that over years. What we have realized, if you want to transform the community, you need to go down to the community where the community members are. And you don't come with something which is a very scientific, no. You need to go down and try to see if there is any solution that they have within the community. And if there is something that you can bring from researchers, then you combine it with the development. So normally when we go down to the villages, we mobilize the farmers into the group of like 20 to 30 people. And from there we start thinking together, co-designing, co-creating, and then eventually we started doing our work. And our work starts with transformation of their mindsets. And that is where the extension service come. From the presentation this morning, we have learned that it's only 7% of the farmers who received extension services in the recent year. But also if you go through, to the statistics, what I heard from the minister is we have about 3,000 plus extension workers within the country. But the demand is beyond that. We wish to have extension worker in each of the villages. Now, using that capacity really, there is no way that you can go or you can make any farm. So what we are trying to do is to come up with another model, which is a community-based extension service delivery. We work with the government extensionists to build the capacity of the farmers within the villages, and we also select the farmers who can be trained to become the lead farmers, but also we select youth who can become the community agrovet entrepreneur in terms of livestock extension service delivery, but also providing some other services. So they are there as agents of change. And so far, what we have managed to have done within this country is we have mobilized about 52,000 groups of farmers, each with lead farmers, 10 groups, each with community agrovet entrepreneur, the calves, or the cows model. And we have also managed to mobilize about 1.1 million farming households within the country. And all of them have received extension services as well as extension education in terms of right genetics, right nutrition, animal health, as well as other management requirement for the livestock management within the country. And yeah, the other thing that we have noted is despite that we have the government extensionists within the wards, the district, and at regional level, we still need to have a refresher training to them as well, because what we have realized, the technology moves very fast. And here is where Haifa International comes in with a set of productivity enhancing technologies. And what we normally do here, we try to work with government extensionists. We do the refresher training to them, but also we went down all along with them to the farmers to try to make sure that there is a training done, but also we want to make sure that there is an adoption level from the farmers. But there are 3 or 2 key learnings which I want to share with you. One is, regardless of that you do all of these good trainings, you print brochures, you prepare models and so forth, if there is no any economic justification to that, farmer will never adopt it. And that is a key message. The key message here is, whatever you do in terms of extension service delivery, you have to marry it with market. And that is where we need to work with private sector. We have been doing that on our own with the government for over 30 years, and the rate was not that high. But recently when we started working with private sector, along with public sector, we realized that the success rate was very high. The second message is, sometimes there is no need for us coming from elsewhere with our own knowledge package and try to impose to the community. Sometimes you find that the indigenous knowledge works better. And maybe what we needed to do as development partners or development workers is try to find a way how we can perfect the indigenous knowledge and try to accelerate it and scale it up to other communities within the country. So this is what I can share in brief.
Thank you, Mark. And I believe the Ministry of Livestock and Fisheries is the first ministry to have a private sector desk as well, I believe, so speaking to the importance that it places on private and public partnership. So thank you for that, Mark. Professor Robinson, please, we want to hear from you, and this is a 2-part question as well. Maybe just talk to us about some of your academic research and innovations that you're seeing, but I'd also like you to touch on as well the monitoring, verification, and reporting framework that your institution is leading upon. What are some of the challenges and also opportunities around this framework, please? If you just hold down the button, there we go.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very happy for the questions and for being invited to be part of this gathering, which is really unique. And I'd like to extend my sincere thanks to the chief guest, the representative of the World Bank, the organizers, and the host. Being from Sokoine, we realize University of Dar es Salaam is our parent. So you'll never be superior than your parents. However, now we believe on the so-called reverse mentorship. A child could be stronger than parents, and they can enrich the stability of the parent as well. So I'm speaking on behalf of the Vice Chancellor who was invited because of the relevance of this gathering. He was supposed to be here, and unfortunately had equally competing challenges in the tasks. So he sent his apology, and indeed, I'll go straight to the questions, like giving examples of research relevant to the gathering of today. In the first place, we know universities, as know Sokoine, University of Dar es Salaam, University of Dodoma. We have almost similar mandates. And it's about training, research, outreach, and consultancies. The most unique thing which we now see is a transformation in research landscape. And indeed, it's quite unique. And the transformation has come at the right time, where if you assess what we have done in this country in terms of research, in livestock, in agriculture, 80% of our research has been on identification and the characterization of problems. and less than 20% research on solutions. So solution-based research is less than 20%. And that has been since 1960s when we got independence. So that has necessitated us to really go into what the world wants, and basically, as I said, transformative research providing solutions. And if we're doing research, we have been trained to go through identification of the problem and do literature review. With the landscape change in research, the literature review, instead of saying literature, we now review the communities. So instead of identifying the problems from the books and the published papers, the last speaker has mentioned it very well. You review what is happening in the community so that you identify the critical gaps in research at the community level. What the farmers are facing, the communities are facing, that is what will drive you to carry out relevant research. And therefore, it has been like an agreement. Now we have moved to the so-called intervention research, where you combine solutions based on the problem that you have identified, but also on the possible and the feasible solutions. And so to speak, in short, we have realized that you have to integrate. So integrated type of research is the one which provides sustainable and a sound solution. And for example, in livestock, I can give you an example on what is happening in the southern highlands of Tanzania, where I was involved in research for over 10 years. Initially, there were 4 projects. One was addressing dry season feeding strategies in dairy cattle, a standalone project. And we had the second project addressing a serious disease in dairy cattle, that was mastitis. We had the third project in the same location, different projects addressing processing technologies that would fit in the community level. And we had another project addressing the breeds. So imagine you are having 4 different research groups in the same locations. Apparently we realized that could not make sense, and we were making farmers tired. The divide stopped, and we went through integrated technologies type of research, and indeed it transformed the farmers. When we started working, a farmer would get 6 liters of milk per animal per day. By the time when we ended our project, a farmer could get 15 to 20 liters of milk per animal per day, and it was through integration. So integrating the feed and the feeding technologies, integrating the disease component, integrating manure processing technologies and the like. So in short, I would say we must agree and go into that. And luckily enough, in this country, we are now seeing big support from the government. We used to get funding from the development partners with minimal support from the government. Now, if you go through COSTECH, we see a serious actually commitment of the government. We are now getting resources to be able to support research in Tanzania based on what we think could help the farmers. At the same time, the government of Tanzania has pushed the universities to make sure that they set at least 1 billion Tanzanian shillings every year to support internal research, particularly to the young researchers who cannot compete to get good funding for research from external donors. And indeed, in addition to that, we are also doing our literature review to the game changers. And the thing like the young generation. Do you know what they want? I once asked them, how do you see BBT? They said it's a good one. However, when we enter and when they speak to us about BBT, they only speak about the beautiful things. And they don't speak much about the other side of the coin. And when you enter into that, you realize it's a nice cake, but indeed sometimes it doesn't sound as it is. And they told me, young generation would like to invest at the terminal end of the value chain. So they're interested in investing in eggs and meat and prepare for at the last mile for consumption. They are saying it's very hard to invest at the initial part of the value chain. Why? There are too much risks. And they were asking me, I'm taking a loan. So the way I'm investing is different from how my parents, how my father invested. For them, it was part of livelihood. For me, it's business. So what I'm saying, the research that we are carrying out and the way we transform the young generation is towards that. And part of it, actually, in terms of training, going hand in hand with the research, we are thinking a lot about in-service and the pre-service training program. So pre-service, we are having curricula, and now Tanzania has received big support from the World Bank. We are reviewing our curricula, and each curricula has to address components of climate change. That has been a mandatory. So we thank the government of Tanzania and the World Bank for seeing that. So pre-service curricula must have it. Now, don't forget the in-service. Those guys who graduated many years ago. So we must have a tailor-made program for the in-service. This is not new, ladies and gentlemen. Mwalimu Nyerere was the founder of the focal development centers. And there was a purpose. A community must have a learning center. Whether you are a graduate or not a graduate, you are a farmer, you must have a place to learn. He borrowed it from Sweden, he brought it to Tanzania. We should not kill it, because the NGOs are coming, and sometimes they go because the program has ended. If you have a focal development center, I think that is a gap which must be taken into account. Now, going to the second question about what Sokoine is doing in terms of measuring, reporting, and the verification of in terms of climate change, I want to mention that Sokoine University of Agriculture is privileged to have the so-called National Carbon Monitoring Center. And they say, actually they are mentioning carbon, it has been confusing people, but in reality, carbon, yes, and the carbon, I think the way it has been agreed, is also used to measure the equivalent for methane, equivalent for nitrous oxide, and the others, as you may mention. Indeed, we are very good and we have advanced. The challenge which we are facing, in terms of measurement, reporting, and the verification, we are banking on Tier 1 data and basically global data. We don't have national, domestic, in situ data. And that is the biggest challenge, actually. And that's obvious. And you can read the reports. Of course, we go slow. The first thing, we have the monitoring center. And currently, it has obeyed to the focus of Tanzania, whereby main interest was on energy-related carbon emission, and secondly, basically industrial processing and product use, abbreviated as IPPU. And the third one, where SOA is highly involved, is agriculture, land use change, and forestry, abbreviated as AFOL, and the last one is waste. If you go through the third, agriculture, land use change, and forestry, unfortunately, agriculture lagged behind. So we already have the model. Agriculture is included. However, livestock industry is not part of it. And that is the next move now, to see how the country can invest through development partners, that we start establishing good data, Tier 2 data, that can serve as an input into MVR systems. And indeed, it's not difficult, but it requires a change in mindset. One, do we know the number of cattle? Yes. But if you are asked how many bulls are, and how many are heifers, how many are cows, how many are pregnant animals, and the like. So indeed, we need to disaggregate the data, structure the data that will help us come up with better information that can go into MRV programs. And that could help our farmers very well. Last point, actually, we are working with the poultry farmers and the commercial poultry farmers. Really, if you see the way they are struggling, finally they vaccinate their animals, the vaccines are not working. Why? Problem of infrastructure. There is no power. So now you see the government of Tanzania has invested in mega projects like power that is going also to revive the poultry industry. The way I see it, they will be able to solve the challenge. So that is what I can contribute for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor, for those valuable insights. And panelists, I hope you'll forgive me. I've been a little bit sneaky. I've been giving you two-part questions to speed things up, which means we only have one question left. I hope you've noticed that. So I'm going to come back to Professor Mushi. Please, audience, have your questions ready. This is going to be our rapid round of questions, so one question each. It will only take 10 minutes, and then we open up to the floor. Is that okay? Yes or yes? Yes, okay. Professor Mushi, talk to us about your private sector engagement. I think it's been touched on by many of the panelists.
Yep.
Success stories, and let's hear from the point of view of the ministry.
Yeah. Yeah. If you read through the report, you will see that our ministry championed the establishment of a private sector desk. And this was established in 2018. And actually it has done tremendous things in the sector in terms of engaging with the private sector, especially when it comes to mobilizing resources they need to transform their production. Going through our records, we can see that from when it was established, the private sector desk has actually managed to facilitate the private sector to get loans from the financial institution in the tune of 150 billion, and this is not a joke. And how do they do it? You know, to get loans from the from the financial institution, you need to prepare some document, including business plan and stuff like that. So for them, they also identify the opportunities in the financial institution and inform the private sector, and also they help the private sector to put up the business plans that are needed to as a requirement to get the loans from the financial institution. So a lot has happened. And they have also, I mean, this particular desk has also played a key role in, having the private sector on board in reforming regulation and legal framework needed to make the business environment more friendly. And a very good example that I can cite on was this one that led to, reducing or changing the way export fees actually is done, export fee is done in this country. Initially, we used to charge export fee on the basis as a percentage of FOB, but due to the engagement that was facilitated by this private sector, we managed to revisit it to make it a lump sum of 70,000, for example. And this has actually contributed a lot to the export because we heard from the private sector that the private sector in this country was failing to compete in the export market because of the multiplicity of fees that are put on the, on the export process. So that has actually contributed to the increase in the export that we have heard from the presentation that we got from the Honourable Minister earlier on. So I would say that the private sector has been very instrumental, and it continues to be instrumental in bringing private sector on board, liaising between the government and the private sector.
Thank you, Professor Mushi. I'm going to come to Elizabeth next. I have not forgotten you, Amos. Elizabeth, maybe you could just touch on access to capital for us. Have there been any challenges in this regard from the private sector, being able to access capital as a poultry farmer, running a business, and maybe how can this be improved for small and medium business owners?
Yes, there has been a big challenge in finance accessibility, especially from the farmers that we are working with. We have two groups of very important farmers, women and youth. And one challenge they are having is access to land. But then even if they are given the land, that land needs investment to be cleared and invested on so that for the banks or financial institutions to fund them. Because otherwise the banks do not fund a bare land. So that's one of the challenge. But then they really need investment in poultry housing. They need transporting their produces to the production units for value addition. And it's very difficult for them to access that funding. But challenges that comes up with that problem, it's because there's a need for capacity building to make them investor ready. They don't have that investment knowledge. They do not have the history of their finances. They do not. Some of them do not even have the knowledge of how to do that. Some of them don't even have bank accounts. But when you look at them, when we work with them, they do. We start with them at a small level. Some of them we start with a package of 540 chicks. But after 2 years, these ones grow up to 6,000 chicks. So you can see the growth is there, but there's no history for finance. They don't have business plans. And when we are trying now to engage youth into the program, we also face mindset issues. We've realized that there's a lot of need for counseling, and this is a burden for private sector. We realize that many youth do have depression issues, anger issues, which needs to be addressed because these are the problems that affect businesses. So those are the challenges towards accessing the investments.
Thank you for the reality on the ground there. Naweed, other infrastructural challenges that you're aware of to add on where Elizabeth left off?
Thank you for pointing out those challenges, Elizabeth, and I can only echo them. We have a saying in the farming community, the farmers don't get the funding unless you know how to write, and unfortunately farmers don't know how to write, and the ones that know how to write don't know how to farm. So there's a bit of a mismatch there. So development partners, banks, let's look at that for a little bit deeper and hopefully give opportunities to people that, from a practical perspective actually know how to farm, and we can leave some of the words aside. Additional infrastructures have been touched on by a number of panelists, but infrastructural challenges like road accesses to where raw materials like feed inputs or animals that we would need for myself who operates a feedlot, in terms of sourcing these animals into our feedlots, that's definitely one of the challenges that we face in terms of road accesses and all of those things. But cold chain systems is also a huge challenge. This would go a long ways in alleviating the levels of income for smallholders in rural areas, where we would be able to give them access to value adding of their products should we avail better cold chain systems, which would touch on to the issue of power, which is being addressed as we speak. But I also want to touch again what I touched on before is basic livestock infrastructure. In communal lands, it's one thing allocating grazing land, but if there's no stations for them to weigh their cattle, for them to dip and vaccinate their cattle effectively, so that's something that I think through development partners and the government as a whole, in terms of in these communal grazing lands, how do we make sure that the basic infrastructure that would ensure an animal is kept healthy, that is handled within the parameters of animal welfare, and gives them the easiest access to the market at the best value. How can we get those infrastructures right into the grassroots of the country?
Thank you. Amos, it sounds like from the private sector it's incredibly challenging to implement some of these technology innovations that you might be researching. Any comments on this, and how do you see us overcoming implementation of innovations that you are researching within your institution?
Yes, there is a major gap in getting innovations used out there. So the biggest challenge is deployment, delivery of innovations, getting them used out there. Now, how do you get that happening? It has been said here, just to reiterate, it's agribusiness, agribusiness, agribusiness. You need Elizabeth times 10 and encourage the youth and women that she's working with there to become like her, to fill the gap in supplying the products, livestock products that are needed. Now, I would like to posit that given there are many challenges along the value chain nodes, but given what has been presented here, that the gap between demand and supply is increasing, where most investments are needed is in increasing the use or access and use of inputs and services. And you want to get agribusinesses to play an increasing role there. The ministry has been playing a significant role over the years, extension services, but as was observed by, I think, Ernest in his presentation, access and use of extension services is only about 7% right now. Yeah. Now, it used to be higher, looking at the last agriculture livestock census, it used to be higher, around 50% or something like that. So it has declined quite a bit. Now, given the limited resources available, public resources, how do we then get agribusinesses to fill the gap? The BBT program, how do you then use these women and youth, incubate, mentor, coach them to not only create employment for themselves, but getting them to also use that opportunity to, or rather use them to improve access and use of innovations at the farm level to spur productivity. And then maybe just to add, how do you balance public and private investments? Now, I'll give you a general example here that I think brings the point home. If you look at, say, one subsector, the dairy subsector across the region here, you find that countries where there have been significant sustained public sector investments over the years have created opportunities for private sector to begin to leverage that and become profitable in providing inputs and services. So, for example, I think the best examples that come to mind are the investments over the years in Kenya and Rwanda, where now the dairy sector alone contributes to around 6 to 8% of the total GDP. Now, compared to, say, Tanzania, where it is as low as 2%. Now, Ernest did mention that this is the gist of this report, where these gaps have been shown. And to me then is working out where is it that we can promote the private sector to continue doing what they are best doing at, but where, for example, say, Morogoro, Kilosa district, where we did some work, shows that you need sustained public investment there for about 5 years before the private sector can then come to kick in.
Thank you. Mark, and maybe you can add in as well, you're obviously on the front line working at Haifa International. How can we streamline technology transfer and adoption for smallholder farmers for sustainability, of course, and enhance productivity?
Yeah, thank you so much for the very relevant question. Yes, I think there are three things that we need to put here into the equation. One is the relevance of the technology. And then I might prefer that we use the term appropriate technology, which is easily be adopted by the farmers who are within the community. Then the third is easily be adopted by the farmers who are within the community. Then the third point is you need to anchor the farmer enterprise, which is the farm itself. You need to anchor it with an off-taker business. And here is where the private sector comes. So having these 3 points will make the adoption very easy within the community. Thank you.
Thank you. You've made my job very easy for the last question to Professor Robinson, because I was going to ask you about the interplay between academia or education, the government and private sector, and how we can enhance that working relationship between all three parties. So maybe you could just share your thoughts there, Professor.
Thank you very much for the nice question. Indeed, we cannot move and advance if we take the 3 key pillars in the economy, livelihood improvement separately. We must work together. And there's been a fear and a blame game over the years. Universities have been thought as somewhere sitting in ivory towers, and they are not part and parcel of what is happening with the farmers and at the community level. Indeed, we must go back to the roots. And when you read the books and philosophies from Mwalimu Nyerere, I remember when he was inaugurating Sokoine University of Agriculture, that was the first point. He said, you academia, you must work very well with the farmers. And there is the one who mentioned about One Health, which is very good. I could hear it today because by then he said the farmers need all technologies together to be able to solve problems. So we must, and you must work together. So universities must go down, and they must go down, work with the farmers. I said, be part and parcel of identifying, characterizing the problems, then come up with the solutions. Who are the custodians of solutions? Now we have the ministries. We are talking about challenges of vaccine. Universities cannot solve the problem of vaccine as they are. They must go back and work with the government. So we are happy. In livestock sector, if you go back to history, 1990, where a livestock sector, animal health services, for example, were privatized. So we are talking about animal health delivery services, including supply and availability of drugs, including vaccine, was under private sector. So when you have it under private sector, it's very difficult to control indeed, because private, as you know, real private investors profit so that they can sustain their business. Sometimes we say, yes, we invest money for profit, but again, even though it's not for profit, it's not for a loss as well. You can have money for profit, and if you are for a loss, you will collapse. So indeed, you cannot escape. We must think and invest in a way that will assist and help the private sector, which is key for development of any country. Another part now is acceptance of the private sector for academia. Our new graduates, for example, now, they are not easily accepted right away to enter into private sector. If you ask why, they are saying they are not very well cooked. They are not very well trained. That is the language they use. And during the training program, if you take them to the farms, sometimes they are rejected. And now you wonder, can we train these guys on the space? And by the time they have graduated, can they be easily accepted? So it's a difficult puzzle, but in my view, it's high time to reflect for the academia themselves. We must retool the staff. As academicians, be it a professor, if a disease is there and is killing animals, no matter whether you have 50 publications or 100 publications, a farmer sees you like you are useless man. So we must value and increase our value, in my view, by going back and see how best we can be seen as useful to the farmers. And the only way is to retool ourselves. Technology moves very fast, new things are coming, and in addition, we must be integrated to the government systems. You will never be smarter than the government, which is everything is supporting you. So in my view, we need a very strong link between academia and a very strong link with the government, which is supporting us, and we need a very strong link with the public sector, which drives the production. And at the same time, in developed world, a lot of research universities is supported by the private sector. So how much money from private sector goes into support? How much supports research? So if you're not supporting research, you end up doing research, which for them they consider as a useless research. It's not. We are doing and embracing science and technology. It's not useless. So if we want it to support the production, you want a research that can support a farmer. Ladies and gentlemen, a research that can support 80% of pastoralists is not an easy. You can read books, but we don't know yet how much you can help those farmers. It's easy with whatever we are mentioning, but how do you support 80%? Pastoralists is not as easy as it is. So we need a partnership. One Health is very well mentioned in the report, which in my view is key for the success. Thank you.
Thank you for pressing on the importance of that tripartite relationship. Let us open up to the floor. I think we have time for 2, maybe 3 questions if we have burning questions. Does anyone have a question? You'll raise your hand. There's a lady down here. Let me just give numbers. So 1, 2, and 3.
You will just give us your name. Please stand up. Who is your question to? Go straight to the question. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Faine Simsola, and I'm the Tutorial Assistant at University of Dar es Salaam. I have two questions. Okay, thank you. I'll have one then. I am wondering that this group of livestock keepers are not a homogeneous group. They have diversities. We have women and we have youth, but they are not homogeneous too. We have diversity of women in rural areas, women in towns. We have women, widow women, and we have women who are married. So how disaggregated are the policies to capture these diversities of these groups of people? Like, when you provide an opportunity and chances, how are these different groups of women and youth and even vulnerable men and poor men are going to access those 2.8 billion you have said? So I am wondering if they want police to success, you must see these different kind of diversity in order to make a policy successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that for the DPS?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, thank you. He's taking notes. Let us take the second question here and the third one here, and then we'll take answers together. Thank you.
So my name is Dines Mbao. My question is, how is the ministry and other stakeholders ensure youth inclusions in the livestock keeping?
Okay, so youth inclusion in the livestock sector. Okay. And the final question here.
Thank you. My name is Honest Mseri, also alumni of the University of Dar es Salaam. My question goes straight to Madam Elizabeth. You pinpointed informality as one of the challenges within the poultry subsector. But I know within the dairy subsector, 97% also informality. Now the government, through the finance bill, the current one, plan to introduce 2% final withholding tax. How do you perceive it? How do you see the impact of it to the challenge of informality?
Thank you very much. That's all we have time for, but there will be lunch and networking, so you'll be able to ask other questions, and thank you for these questions from all the young people. People are giving me evil eye at the moment. DPS, please, Professor Mushi, if you could take the first question around how your policies might be disaggregated for different groups within the nation.
Thank you, Zola. The question is very pertinent, and I would say that when you talk about gender inclusivity in policy formulation, one particular group that is given a special focus are women, youth, and disabled. And if you look through our policies, there is a very special statement on the same, because this, for quite a number of years, have been the disadvantaged group in our society. So yes, the policies that we do have are gender sensitive. If you wish, you can also get a copy of the livestock policy, and you'll see there clear statements that are very, very gender specific, gender sensitive, because we know, as you said it, that the groups, the livestock keepers, are not homogeneous, definitely. And then there is another issue from Dines. Yes, you're talking about youth inclusion in livestock keeping. Dines, if you listen to me earlier on when I was talking about BBT, you'll see that this is an attempt, actually, from Her Excellency, the President of this country, to engage youth in livestock production. And one way is to break the fear that surrounds youth youth in this country, that livestock keeping is something that is very hard, as I think Professor Mdegela was saying, that they would not wish to engage in the upstream production. They will wish to be on the downstream part because the risks are lower there. But the idea behind formulating building a better tomorrow program is to address exactly that fear. So this is one way we have started, and we will continue to make sure that we engage them. We give them the entrepreneurial mindset that they actually need to step into livestock production. I will stop there for now.
Thank you. Maybe a quick poll of the audience. Can you raise your hand if you're a student or recent graduate? Just put your hand in the air proudly. Can you keep your hand in the air if you are considering entering the livestock sector in some way in the future? Okay, about 10%? Yeah. Elizabeth, there was a question for you around informality and your views on, was it withholding tax specifically? Yes. Careful what you say.
I think if the study is to be done today, a bigger percentage would be an informal sector. And for me, as a business person, I feel like I'm being burdened with responsibility that is not mine. I think TRA should look at the ways of working with grain producers and collect the taxes themselves. They have the capacity, and I think that's their mandate to collect tax. Now, when you're giving me the responsibility of collecting withholding tax from a person who do not know exactly what is the withholding tax,
you're all seated. How come?
the person that do not have a receipt for their grains, how am I going to collect that tax? Unless TRA works with farmers and explain to farmers how they are supposed to do their business, because I do agree that farmers of these days are not like the same as farmers. They make millions, they make billions, they are rich people. They should formalize their businesses. They should be responsible for their own taxes. However, because it's been said in the parliament, I will have to collect that withholding tax. What does that mean? That means the prices for feeds, for example, will go higher because the farmer will not agree to be deducted withholding tax. And as for me, before I'm being penalized for not collecting that tax, that means I have to revisit my costing and embed the cost on the producers. That means feed products will go higher. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's all we have time for, so I'll ask, can you clap once if you learned something new today? Clap twice if you have a burning question and you're going to find one of these panelists over lunch. Clap 3 times if you're glad you attended the 21st edition of the Tanzania Economic Update. Asanteni sana, my panelists, the Deputy Permanent Secretary, Professor Mushi, we have Amos Amore, we have Professor Robinson Mdegele from SUA, Elizabeth Swai, Mark Soso, and Nawid Mula. Had to remember all those names. Please stand up and take your flowers from the audience. A round of applause for the panelists, and thank you very much. We can leave the microphones on the chair. Please do not leave. We have some closing remarks. So it is my honor and privilege now, once everyone is seated, to invite the Permanent Secretary, Professor Shemdoe. We would like to invite you to the podium to give some closing remarks before we proceed to our networking lunch. Karibu sana, round of applause for the Permanent Secretary.
Honorable Abdallah Ulega, Minister for Livestock and Fisheries, Mr. Nathan Beleke, Country Director of World Bank, and gentlemen, good afternoon. My apologies for my voice is not that much, well, I have a bit of flu, but I said I have to be here so that I talk to you this afternoon. It is with great pleasure and honor to stand in front of you and to deliver 2 things. 1, a takeaway messages and the second one, a closing remarks. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, we have had a very fruitful meeting, half-day meeting. And as you have heard from the speeches from the minister himself, the country director, two presentations that have been made here, as well as the panel discussion here, we learn that we have a lot of potentials in the livestock sector. And what we basically need is to ensure that everyone who is in here take a slot to ensure that we send the sector high. As the name of the session suggests, it is takeaway and concluding remarks. It is now time to reflect the discussions we had since morning and deliberate on actionable strategies that will drive the transformation of the livestock sector. You may recall, and it is there, the theme of the day is harnessing a climate-smart and competitive livestock sector in Tanzania. It underscores the pressing challenges posed by climate change while enhancing the efficiency and productivity of livestock sector. Dear colleagues, we have had a number of messages, and I want to highlight some of them. Maybe I didn't capture everything, but I had 15 issues that I managed to take note. One is about animal health. Here we have been hearing about issues related to vaccination, dipping of livestock in the areas, and we have heard that the government has set aside 28 billion Tanzanian shillings for a massive campaign for vaccination. This might not be enough. So I'm making a call to the bank, but to all other DPs who are here, to the private sector who is seated here, that we need to go massive and we need to cover the whole country. So we are inviting you to put your donation into that so that we can manage to do this countrywide vaccination program. The second thing that we had is about the BBT, building better tomorrow for youth and women in livestock. I think one of the members here asked about how do we take care of the youth? How do we take care of the women? This program is one of the programs under the ministry that is actually taking into consideration on those two major groups. And here we have almost more than 20 billion, which is also set aside in the coming financial year to support these groups. So the thing that will happen is that we will advertise and we will call for those ones who are interested in participating into that. So for you youth who are here, please take that as an opportunity for you to engage into that business. We have heard about the extension services, that we need to improve that, and it is important because if you have livestock keepers, you need to capacitate them in terms of the knowledge, how they keep their livestock and the like. So we need extension officers and services to that matter. And we have also set aside some funding for that, but we still call for support from anyone who is interested. We again have issues related to market opportunities. We have had also issues of anchoring production with the off-takers and the market at large. So here again, we have to think from the fork to farm, not from farm to fork. We have to prepare the market for what we are producing. So if we do vaccination, for example, I'm linking it to the vaccination again, that one will help us to get the market of our livestock products abroad. And that again, we have already settled the issue of market. So we have to see how we anchor, the production and the market, and more importantly, starting from the market itself. We talk about the improving of forage, seeds, quality livestock feeds, and other livestock inputs. Here is again another area that we need to look at. If we don't have good feeds for animals, that means even the production and the productivity that we are thinking that we have to improve, we cannot reach that. So I noted that as one of the points and the keynote issues that we have to take away with us. The other one is access to capital. And here we talk about the finances, land, and it has, as it has been stated, and also securing finances to the small livestock keepers, the medium ones, but to people like Mbogo, they need also to have these finances. We need to assist them and give them land for them to make such kind of investment. So this again is an area that we are noting. Improving land management. We have had issues related to small ranches for small and medium livestock keepers. If we want to avoid conflicts, we need to have such kind of small ranches that can be used to keep animals so that we reduce livestock farmers' conflict. But we have heard also about One Health. That is one of the areas that we need to put more financing. I'm going back again to the vaccination. If we vaccinate, we will reduce a lot of zoonotic diseases. And that will help again to reduce investment that we are putting into the health sector. So we have to look at that and ensure that we have allocated some finances on One Health. But we again have heard about husbandry standard operating procedures. We have these livestock keepers who just wake up in the morning and he thinks that he will be moving from Shinyanga to Kilwa without any SOP. So we basically need to have that. So if one moves from Shinyanga to Kilwa, he or she has to follow a certain procedure. Not just taking 100,000 animals to Kilwa. You even do not know where you are going to keep them. And that is where we start having these conflicts. We also need to revive the livestock learning centers. I think this is again one of the areas that needs to get some push so that those ones who are keeping animals, the livestock keepers, they get some day-to-day knowledge. If there is a technology that has just been introduced in the country, it is easier for them if they sit in a class and they get that, they can use it. So we see it as one of the messages that we have to take home with us. But again, we also have had on the review of the regulatory framework. This is a continuous process. Each time we see the policy has stayed long, we need to do a review. We are currently doing a review of, what policy is that, Mushi? National Livestock Policy. We had one that was on 2006, but we are reviewing it now so that at least we can have incorporated some new issues, some new things that have occurred since 2006. The other thing is the formalization of the sector itself. We have had here that majority of the animals that we have here are under informal livestock keeping. I'm not bringing here about taxes, but if you want to tax them, it is difficult because you don't even know how much. Unfortunately, for us who are livestock keepers, sometimes we don't mention the total number of animals that we have. I'll tell you I have 1,000, but behind me I have 5,000. So that again, if we need to formalize that, it will be a very good thing. We talk about milk, for example. In the country, every year, I mean, I give you the data of this year, we are producing 3.9 billion liters of milk. But we only have 3% that is formal, traded. The rest are the ones that tunatumia chupa hizi, mtu amekunywa maji, anatupa chupa, inachukuliwa, inaweka maziwa, unauziwa. Well, we need to see how we can improve that. And I like this message here that we need to formalize the sector so that at least we can get, we can even improve the contribution of the sector into the GDP. The final thing that we noted is the promotion of investment and dissemination of climate change smart research results that will provide solutions to the reduction of methane production. I understand that people, scientists from Sokoine, scientists from University of Dar es Salaam are doing quite a lot. So if these can be compiled and can be disseminated, it might be useful information that will help us to know where we can trigger so that we can reduce the production of methane. Honorable Minister, when you came here, you told us about your being alumni of the university here, University of Dar es Salaam. But we all have root of this university here. Every university that you see in Tanzania started here. So talk about Sokoine University of Agriculture, it started here. You talk about Ardhi University, where I was actually lecturing there. It came from here. So basically I'm an alumni of this university simply because Sokoine University of Agriculture has a root here, but also I worked as a lecturer at the University of Dar es Salaam and University College of Lands and Architectural Studies before we made it to be Ardhi University. So when you call a meeting for alumni, don't forget me. Ladies and gentlemen, so to conclude, as Minister of Livestock and Fisheries, we thank the World Bank for supporting the production of the book, but also supporting the launching event that has brought us all here this morning. I thank everyone who is here for setting up time to be with us, because it would have been my minister, myself, country director, and the DPS. This one wouldn't have been a lounge. So it has been a lounge because you guys, you made your time, and you are sure that you come and join us. Thank you very much for coming, and I'm urging every one of you, students who are here, use the information that has been published in that book as your reference material. Let us use the information as a teaching material. Let us use the information as an extension material that we all need to use for the benefit and the future of livestock sector. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best. Asanteni sana.
A warm round of applause for Professor Shandor for closing the 21st edition of the Tanzania Economic Update. I'm the only one that stands between yourselves and lunch, but just to let you know that the report is now live on the World Bank Tanzania website. So we are also trying to be climate smart and not print too many copies. So please download your copy from the website, World Bank Tanzania. Big thank you to the leadership team, our chief guest and team, the university for hosting, my panelists, thank you so much. All the students that are here, Jenem, Asante, and thank you to everyone that's shown up today. Lunch is served. If you head out to the reception, the ushers will take you to the lunch. Make sure you go and ask some questions. The panelists are here. Okay, have a lovely afternoon. Thank you.